The House of Representatives voted today on the bill to provide additional funding to small businesses. As we've reported earlier, the funds for small businesses ran out quickly. And part of the problem was that a number of big companies that are publicly traded applied for these loans and were approved. And the funny part about all of this is how the Treasury Department is now pretending as if they didn't know that there was lack of oversight and that this money wasn't going to go to people or companies, I should say, that shouldn't have applied for it in the first place. I'll give you what the response is, what the update is from the Treasury Department. But before I do so, I think that the only commentary that was worth listening to on the House floor was that of the progressive members of Congress. Here is the notorious squad speaking out about the flaws in this legislation.
But it's also indefensible for us not to focus on replenishing the coffers of Americans and focus on making sure they are able to support paying their rent, making sure that our cities and states are not going bankrupt, and making sure American families are not dying of hunger.
This bill is only necessary because in the last bill, Republicans prioritized a $500 billion gift to corporations that turned around and laid off workers who bailed them out. Our people need us to prioritize public health and testing, and they need reoccurring monthly relief payments now.
It is a joke when Republicans say that they have urgency around this bill. The only folks that they have urgency around are folks like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and Shake Shack. Those are the people getting assistance in this bill. You are not trying to fix this bill for mom and pops, and we have to fight to fund hospitals, fighting to fund testing. That is what we're fighting for in this bill. It is unconscionable. If you had urgency, you would legislate like rent was due on May 1st and make sure that we include rent and mortgage relief for our constituents. Thank you very much.
So I just want to note that the demands from the progressive members of the House were not met. So they did not receive the additional funding they wanted for the states, for instance. There is no additional funding to provide recurring $2,000 payments to Americans who are unable to work right now. But there is additional funding for the small businesses. This version of the stimulus is nearly $500 million. So it's something, right? I'm sorry, $1 billion. So it's something, but it's still not enough to help average Americans pay their bills, pay their rent. Rent is obviously coming up soon. I also wanted to just note that in that video featuring Rashida Tlaib, there was a little girl, a picture of a little girl behind her. And that little girl died from COVID-19 in Michigan. She was only 5 years old. Her mother is a police officer. Her father is a firefighter. So we're talking about essential workers who are out there not only risking their own lives, but by being exposed to this virus, they're also risking the lives of their family members. And this is the reality that average Americans are facing right now. And it's devastating that they can't rely on Congress to do something to help them.
Today, we're passing 50,000 deaths in America from coronavirus. These are all at a minimum. We have 5% of the world's population and now over a quarter of the world's deaths in coronavirus. We have handled this with great ineptitude and incompetence, and we have prioritized both the health and the wealth of the average American at the very, very bottom. So, guys, we're not selectively picking fiery speeches from Congress. You're only seeing Justice Democrats because they're the only ones fighting. So, yes, other Democrats give timid speeches, but do they fight back and try to prioritize the average person more? No. In fact, the Just Democrats that you just saw doing that are oftentimes shunned. Hey, we have a deal with Mitch McConnell. It's a great deal. We have a great deal with Kevin McCarthy and Donald Trump. You guys don't throw a monkey wrench into this. Most of our donors are we're being wonderfully bipartisan. Yeah. Okay, so I take those Just Democrats over the rest of Congress combined, and that's actually super easy. And by the way, put more Just Democrats in. The elections are still going. JustDemocrats.com/. Just go to JustDemocrats.com. You'll see all of the candidates that are left and how you can contribute. All right, now onto the bill itself. Look, there's nothing wrong with the helping the small businesses. That portion of it is great. It's coming in the third version of relief. Yes, there is also a portion for small businesses in an earlier version, but the priority order should be citizens first, meaning the workers and the average American, then small business, then big business. And of course, since this corrupt Congress, it has gone exactly the opposite. The great lion's share has gone to big business. Now they're finally getting back to small business because the small amount that they gave for small business ran out immediately. That's why they had to replenish here. I'm glad they are. And now the fourth version of relief would be for actual Americans. And that's where the Republicans now are drawing the line and saying, well, I mean, we got debt. How are you going to pay for that? Workers. When's the last time they gave me a campaign contribution? By the way, the reason.
And by the way, AOC. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, no, and if folks say, hey, well, look, AOC and the rest of the Just Democrats fight for the average person because that's who they get their donations from. They get it $5, $20 at a time from average people because they don't take corporate PAC money. To which I say, exactly.
You know, in regard to Republicans all of a sudden pretending like they care about debt or the national debt, AOC did respond to that worry or that concern by saying something very simple. And I'm glad to hear someone in Congress say this clearly. Let's roll back that $2 trillion tax cut. If you're worried about the deficit and if you're worried about our national debt, let's raise some taxes. Love it. And she's absolutely right. Now, onto the Treasury Department. That money did run out quickly. And it's been a big concern that some of that small business money went to companies that shouldn't have even applied to it. And now all of a sudden, the Treasury Department, the same Treasury Department that refused to provide real oversight or guidelines initially when it came to this money, is pretending like they didn't know and that they're going to scold companies that apply but shouldn't be applying. So according to the Washington Post, the Treasury Department on Thursday issued guidance making it much harder for publicly traded companies to qualify for money that was supposed to go to small businesses, threatening penalties in some cases if firms don't repay money they had already received. And the Federal Reserve announced that it would be disclosing the names of companies that receive funding from its assistance programs after complaints that the central bank wasn't being transparent about where the taxpayer aid was going. So sometimes when you shame people and you fight hard enough, you'll get these types of concessions. And I think that transparency is incredibly important. I don't believe Steve Mnuchin. I don't believe the Treasury Department at all when they're pretending to be shocked and chagrined, as you'd say, Cenk, about what's been happening with these small business funding. This is the way that the country has been operating for a long time now. It's just that enough Americans are finally speaking out and they're demanding better.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video.